Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Sundays in Song. I'm so pleased to be able to talk to Faye Chiao right now and to talk a little bit about her residency with us in 2017, 2018, because we're performing a piece of hers this week that was commissioned that year. So, Faye, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. We have really loved performing your piece, Invitation to Love. In fact, we've enjoyed performing a lot of your pieces. We perform your Magnificat and Nunc Dimittis that you wrote for us basically annually, really regularly, and it's become part of our core repertoire. And also your Ave Verum Corpus, which we often do during Lent. And so it's great to have those as part of our corpus of works and things that you've written. But Invitation to Love has been really special. It works at almost any time of the year, but I think it's especially relevant during Advent, and that's when you originally wrote it for us for our
Mm.
lessons of carols back in 2017. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you found the text for it, and maybe your initial approach to setting it.
Yeah, well, if I can first take a second just to sort of say, Doug, I just a huge appreciation, as someone who continues not only myself but with other composers to commission and like generate this incredible choral work. It really is just a wonderful thing to have as a composer and something you don't often encounter. So having the residency itself is such a special thing. So thank you.
Absolutely. Mhm.
So in terms of the text, I've been a fan of Paul Dunbar's in part because he was a poet of color and I related to him in that sense. And also, he was a poet of color who wrote in various styles. So he, worked in sort of more, I would consider them maybe, and he would consider them probably like highbrow and lowbrow styles. And that's very much along the lines of kind of what I do. I think about carrying my voice through the different sort of genres that I work in. And I think of it as sort of like a tool set, having a very, very been lucky to go to Peabody with you. And I think we've developed this like large tool set. And depending on the aim of the piece, you use different tools in your belt. So the poem of Invitation to Love really, really spoke to me because it has to do with the poetry more than anything, the lyric of inviting love to come in anytime. Frankly, I think it's a message that like resonates more now, kind of more than ever. And it's so open and it's so vulnerable in terms of welcoming life in and welcoming joy in and welcoming love in. I think it serves as a wonderful reminder of sort of the humanity in all of us and the necessity and the desire, but also truly the necessity of being open to love in the world.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And we're finding with a lot of the works that we've commissioned over the years that they feel more and more relevant as time goes on, as opposed to being something that was relevant at one point and then not. But there's a deepening there.
Yeah.
Um, the way that you're a vocalist yourself. You've sung in Episcopal churches. You've worked with voices a whole lot. One of our first collaborations involved you performing works your own works for voice, um, and and so I think there's a real sensitivity to the voice as an instrument and to singers as people, which
Mhm.
I think is something that's not always present in choral compositions. And also, as you're talking about a sensitivity to the text, you've created as part of this tool belt, I think, a really lush harmonic language that there's a lot of expressivity to it, and there's a lot of these in several of your works, a lot of these progressions of sevenths, which are often dissonant intervals, but are used in this case, it seems to me almost sort of like as, as the base dough for this, that sort of needed
Mm.
and sculpted. The Whereas other composers might use consonances for that, this is woven in there. And
Mm.
I just wanted to throw that back at you. I don't know if that's how that was intended, or if you've used that style in other pieces, but it's something that has created a sort of shimmering texture in some of these pieces that I found very attractive. So I just wanted to throw that back to you for a second.
That's so kind. Thank you. That's a great question. The true answer is that's just how I hear things. Um, I'm sure I can come up with, it has something to do with the fact that I think, you know, uh, in all my work, and I think in all work, right? What's interesting is sort of the tension, and I do use consonances, but I think about where to put them, so that the tension can resolve in certain moments. And the idea of pacing and the dramatic sense of pacing. I write a lot for the theater, so for me, every song that I approach, that has text, even without text, is telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
So, in theater, we always say, like, the drama is in the tension. If everything is just fine, there might not be, for me, there might not be anything to write about. So I think that I'm sure that has something to do with it. And it's just also just how I hear things.
That makes total sense. I think there's something when I sit down to write something, there's some things that are just spring to mind, but also creating that sense of tension is something that, um, in many composers' works that we're looking for, and we're using that, especially with, as you're talking about, with text. Well, you mentioned your some of your theatrical stuff. What are some of the projects that you're working on now?
Yeah. Well, I have a feminist revenge comedy musical that I'm very excited about.
Sounds awesome.
Um, that's very exciting for us. And I also have a family opera called Katie's Strongest of the Strong that's currently happening in Houston and about to happen in Saratoga. And so that's a story of sort of a female strong woman, actually, around the turn of the century, who came to it's based on a true story, who sort of was a strong woman, came to the States with PT Barnum, and ended up becoming a symbol for women's suffrage. And in addition, there's a two-person show that I wrote with one of my collaborators called Baba Yaga and the Firebird.
Mhm.
And we're hoping to take that to the stage in the next few years. So those
That
are a few
sounds
things.
That sounds great. Those are a wonderful few things, and each existing wholly in their own world. That's wonderful to hear about the Houston Grand Opera project, and everything else. I'm so glad to hear about all those. So, Faye, thank you so much for taking the time. It's wonderful to catch up with you and talk to you about your piece. We've loved performing it and loved performing your music as part of our repertoire, and we're looking forward to offering Invitation to Love both this week and at our Festival of Nine Lessons and Carols coming up on December 17th. So thanks so much again, Faye.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.